Well, good morning again. We do apologize. We were having some technical issues. As you know, with technology, you never know what's going to happen. I am Dr. Jacqueline King, CEO and founder of Black Women and Black Men Empowered. And as you know, we always bring you amazing people doing amazing things. And this day will not disappoint you. I have my friend, the lovely Queen, Miss Deidre Moore, Esquire, and we're going to be talking about her book and her life and how she moves and really helps people. So, Miss Deidre, how you doing, Queen?
Good morning, Queen, Dr. King. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? Let's just get started. Deidre, you actually entered into the legal field kind of late. Uh, so let's go back to what you did before then. Introduce yourself, what you did, and how you made that transition.
Okay. Well, before you get to that, let me say thank you, Dr. King. Let me say it's an honor and a tremendous privilege to be here with you this morning. I'm so grateful for this opportunity that you've extended to me. Thank you for stepping out on faith 10 years ago when you had the foresight to create Black Women Empowered. Thank you for the 4 million followers that you have seeped into their lives, giving them ministry, giving them service, giving them encouragement, giving them motivation, giving them inspiration with all that you do. So thank you, okay?
Thank you. And we want to
Okay.
tell our listeners, check in, tell us where you're coming from, share the broadcast, please. This is going to be exciting. It's going to be inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging. All right. So, Miss Teacher, tell us about how it all started.
Well, I'll say this. I always share with folks that I am not your tradition. I did not take the traditional approach to becoming an attorney. I worked for 9 years at a company called TIAA CREF in Manhattan, and
Mm-hmm.
I worked as a commercial real estate paralegal. I quit that job after 9 years to go to law school full time, and I quit that job as a single mom with many demands on my plate. But I wanted to go to law school. And so while I journeyed and got accepted into law school, I worked 3 jobs while in law school. Okay, whether it was on at the the Tishman Building or transversing the east side or the west side, I worked 3 jobs and I cried many nights. Okay, because it's what I wanted to do, right? And so after working and then going to law school, I graduated and I worked as a public defender with the Legal Aid Society, doing criminal defense work on behalf of the indigent population, those who could not afford representation, right? So I worked there for nearly 5 years, and then I quit that job so that I can start my own law firm, thank you, Jesus, the law offices of Deidre R. Moore, PC, located right here in New York, okay? And it's been a wonderful journey. I feel blessed. And then I find myself almost 20 years later pivoting, still passionate about law, but pivoting and becoming this published author in 2022. I just feel so grateful and blessed for the journey that I've been on. Thank you.
So, as a woman entrepreneur, and I know myself, it's tough out there, especially a Black woman. We can talk about Katanji, Your Honor, Katanji Brown Jackson, and what she had to go through to get to the highest court in the land. As a Black woman, what were some of your struggles?
Oh boy. Well, not having the not having the emotional support or the monetary support from that you would expect to get from certain family structures, which is fine. You understand? That was a struggle, working 3 jobs and meeting the demands of being that single mom to my daughter at the time. That was an interesting journey. Walking into the field of a male-dominated
Mhm.
workforce. Okay, as a Black woman, I don't know which one entered the room first, me being woman or me being Black. But I entered the room in a space that was not oftentimes diverse, not oftentimes recognizing the value that we as women of color and the professions that we are professionals that we are, can bring to the table. As I thanked on the social media to the Honorable, the Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Ketanji Brown Jackson, thanked her for her character, her integrity, her brilliance, her ability to take the law and apply it to the facts and render a decision, her ability to not be impartial based, but not to be partial based on one's political affiliations. I so appreciate the highly qualified woman that has now become the first African-American female to be on the highest court in the land. And I think that speaks volumes.
It does. And so being an attorney, and of course that's she started, you know that it doesn't stop here. Just because they interrogated her, and we've all been through it, where we had to prove ourselves, even though we had the credentials, had the qualification, and even the experience in many instances. It doesn't stop there. Even when you get there, it continues, and they continue to interrogate and to challenge you. How have you dealt with that?
Oh, great question. Because as you speak, I'm thinking of this quote that I always use. I always tell people, lawyering is what I do, is not who I am. All right. And as you can appreciate, we all want people to see us for who we are, right? But it's so easy and convenient for people to see us the way that they want to believe we are, right? It's no different when you enter the legal profession, all right? There's so many expectations that are imposed on you. And depending on who you are, you either sign on to the expectations or you remain true to yourself. So for me, that quote, lawyering is what I do, it's not who I am, it reminds me to always be true to myself. So I just give you the best that I can give you without trying to prove anything to you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is true. I am too all of us. I mean, the social media is blowing up with congratulations for Katanja, and you know, like I say, we still need to gather around and pray for her, because the battle is really just beginning.
Absolutely,
It's not
absolutely.
it's not over by any stretch of anybody's imagination. She's going to be challenged and challenged and challenged until she's no longer working anymore, because that's what we do. Am I right?
But you know, the good thing is, I'm quite sure and confident that she's aware of that. And
I am,
she will still rise to the occasion.
and I believe that she will too. But my point is that for those who don't realize it, once you have arrived, you really haven't.
Yeah, I agree.
You still have to continue learning and growing. You can't sit back and say, okay, I got this job,
Absolutely.
because the job not going to stay with you. They're going to look for every little thing, point out every little mistake where others will not be scrutinized as harshly. So you got to be way on top of your game. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about you and your book. And I'm trying to pull up some information, but you just recently or are releasing your book, and you're excited. Tell us a little bit about that. And I'm gonna read some information. Tell us about your book a little bit.
Okay. Well, from me to you, the power of storytelling and its inherent generational wealth. I consider it an African American story, but with multicultural benefits. Right? From Me to You is a multi-generational tabletop book focusing on multiple aspects of African American history and, by extension, American history. In it, I explore the social impact and economic legacy of the once Central American institution of slavery. Right? I touch on the who, what, at least I try to touch on the who, what, when, where, how, and why of it all, of that complex topic of slavery. And I try to do this through accessible storytelling, through the lens of the enslaved Africans and their descendants. For Me to You is about identity and self-worth, and I like to believe it's empowering. So thank you for asking.
Okay, so I'm looking at your release, and so On June 6, 22, Mascot Books announces the release of a new juvenile nonfiction book, From Me to You: The Power of Storytelling and Its Inherent Generational Wealth, an African American story by local author Deidre R. Moore, Geneva, uh,
John VA. The
John
name John, the
VA.
letter B, the letter A.
Okay, John VA. I would have messed that up terribly. From Me to You is the answer to one important question. So, Mom, what exactly was slavery about? Asked the author's young son after learning of the autocracies of the Holocaust and slavery. Faced with the tough challenge of answering her son's question, Deidre devoted herself to exploring African American history with the end goal of creating a teachable moment, starting with Ida B. Wells and ending with President Barack Obama. From Me to You features illustrations and short biographies of the most prominent 19th and 20th century civil rights activists, centering their voices with quotes and affirmations anchored in the time in which they live. Through stories about family, faith, and the power of multi-generational unity, From Me to You explores the legacy of slavery in American from the viewpoint of enslaved Africans and their descendants. Deidre proves that African American history is American history, and these two concepts rely on each other for posterity. As an African American mother, wife, and advocate for change, Deidre set out on a journey in 2020 to teach young minds the value of investing in themselves and learning about their history. Deidre is no stranger to self investment. As a single mom in 1996, she quit her job to attend law school. Upon graduating from the City University of New York of School of Law, CUNY, School of Law, Deidre worked as a public defender with the Legal Aid Society in Bronx. In 2004, she established the law offices of Deidre Moore, PC. Her work is deeply informed by her personal and professional experiences. And also, if you want to set up an interview with Miss Deidre, you can go to email michelle@amplifiedpublishing.com. All right. Okay. Let's get it. Let's get cracking here.
All right.
So, I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot. Seem like now a lot of people are really trying to focus in on African American culture. As you know, we did get a chance on Monday to interview Reverend Al Sampson, who is the best kept secret of the civil rights movement, who actually was ordained by Dr. Martin Luther King, worked with Reverend Ralph Abernathy and Jesse Jackson and a whole bunch of other people, and has spent his whole life, even at 82, is still committed to the cause of equality for all people. So, what made you wanted to write this book and tell this story and empower people?
Thank you for that question. And yes, that was a wonderful segment with Reverend Al Sampson. And I can't wait till he puts his hands on you by ordaining you, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. put his hands on Reverend Al Sampson. Now that's
Amen.
putting your hands on somebody, okay?
Amen.
So,
Thank
but
you.
thank you for that. Thank you. So, what inspired me to write this book? I often tell people that I was inspired by leadership, friendship, and our youth. And it's in the story of being inspired by our youth that I hope you'll see how leadership and friendship played a role. It was back in September of 2019 where my son, who was 8 years old then, had the occasion to visit one of the local nursing homes called the Hebrew Home here in New York. And it was a part of his school program called the Service Learning Club, where they take kids into the communities and have them engage with people in the communities and learn how they could be of service to people early on, right? So while he's at the nursing home, he's engaged with one of the Holocaust survivors.
Amen.
So on the return trip from the nursing home to the school bus, my son and his other 8-year-old peer were conversing, and they were conversing about the Holocaust and slavery, sharing what limited information they knew from their parents or whomever with respect to those two complex topics adults don't even talk to each other about so freely. All right. And I was inspired as I was listening to him share with me that story. So later that evening, when I'm getting him ready for bed, he said, so Mom, So tell me, so what's the real, what's the, so what is slavery really about? Oh, if I had on these pearls that day, I would have grabbed them and broke them because I was so shocked. And
You'd
thanks
have
for
clutched
that.
those pearls, right?
Okay. I was just surprised that at the age of 8, he would be asking such a loaded and important question with respect to that complex topic. So I gave him some more, and then I told him, I said, you know what? I'm going to try to make this a teachable moment for you, and by extension, whatever, or not whatever, but whomever may want to embrace it as well, right? So I went searching my mind, searching my library of books, searching my resources, saying, okay, I want to find this book that can help me narrate or communicate this complex topic in such a way where it's not so traumatizing upon my son. Let's start there, right? And searching and searching. And while there's wonderful books out there, you know, some of them are in a piecemeal fashion that you'll find the complex topic of slavery addressed, but I couldn't find that book that I wanted to communicate the way that I wanted to do that. And so what I did is I remembered a quote that my dear friend Edgewood Dotticott, she's a prolific author and an award-winning author. She shared it with the third graders, what it was or how it was that she came to write her first book, Crick Crack. And she told the group that she was inspired by a quote from Toni Morrison. And that quote is, if there's a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, you must write it, right? And so not finding what I wanted, but knowing what I was intending to put out there, I said, you know what? There it is. And that's how From Me to You was birthed. So thank you for asking that question.
Wow. Yeah. So here's the thing. We already know the issue that we have with trying to get Black history taught in the school. It's no secret. Um, so in my opinion, we're gonna have to make sure that our kids know ourselves, know for themselves, but it is everyone's responsibility, from the parents, from the preachers. I believe that we should incorporate it in the churches. How do you feel about that?
Oh, great question. And I agree 100%. But let me share this, okay? While I'm on this mission of getting people to continue and to begin pouring into our youths and reminding them or showing them the value of investing in themselves and in learning about their history, I remind folks time and time again, we have not come that far where we can afford to abandon those stories, lessons, dreams, sacrifices that were made by our ancestors as they endured the most egregious time of our history. We owe them so much more. Right now, our country is divided over the issue of upgrading the curricula in schools, a curricula that would tell the true story of how the enslaved Africans and their descendants have been abused and used to create the canvas of what is known as white privilege, a curricula that would share the history of how Black people have consistently been denied opportunities after being exploited so ruthlessly. Well, you know what, Dr. King? Notwithstanding the agenda of others to keep this information or this history out of our school curricula, as you stated, parents, leaders, neighbors, family, and friends, we have an obligation, okay, to tell the stories of the enslaved Africans and their descendants anyway, right? There is inspiration and empowerment, okay, in the stories that are to be told, okay, about the enslaved Africans and their descendants. And these stories should be told regularly and accurately. So thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really proud of you and your book. Let me give you your kudos
Thank you.
on that. So talk about some of the things that you share without giving away everything in the book.
Okay. Well, if I can share the book layout first and foremost, so people can get an idea of how it was created or put together. The book it's one book, of course, but I wrote it in 3 parts. All right. So the first part of the book, chapters 1 through 3, we speak to the diversity of people. And what I did there was I connected our son to people that we know or family and friends that we know on the different continents, of course, excluding and Antarctica, right? And we also used, when I say we, I mean my son and the inspiration behind him. What I did was at my son's school, they have this program called the Country Spotlight. And that's where they celebrate the multicultural nature of the student body at his school. And so what they do is they put up these displays and TV displays, or slides, I should say, and they have special menu day. So you'll see one-page abstracts representative of the different countries that is representative of the students in the school, right? So that's the first part of the book, connecting him to diversity of people. The second part of the book, chapters 4 through 13, that's where it covers those historical moments, okay, ranging from exploration, colonization, the revolution, down through and including the civil rights movement, right? And that's where I try to put in the who, what, when, where, how, and why of it all, of that complex topic of slavery, right? But when you get to that chapter 13, oh my gosh, in chapter 13, it features illustrations and short biographies of the most prominent 19th and 20th century civil rights leaders and activists, centering their voices with quotes and affirmations stemming from the time in which they lived, right? And it starts with Ida B. Wells and ending with the former President Barack Obama. So that's the middle part of the book, those historical moments. And then the book transitions. Chapters 14 and 15, I transition the book with a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson, Be Not the Slave of Your Own Past, right? And with the transition, what I did was it features positive affirmations, special illustrations from some phenomenal people who shared some phenomenal stories back in 2019 through 2020. And so I just wanted the book to be accessible. And when I say accessible, again, I wanted one to sit and read the book without being traumatized, okay? I know what a lynching looks like. I don't need to see it on every single page of a book.
Absolutely. I understand what you're saying. And that's awesome that you took the time. God gave you this incredible vision to be able to do this. So what was your inspiration other than your son? Because it had to have been more than that to write this book.
Yes, it was. And I'll say this. I'll admit that when I started this project, I was just writing to present something to my son to explain this complex topic of slavery. But I will admit that as I continued on this project, it evolved into a mission that I found, one, very important, because let's call it what it is. There are unfortunately generations and generations of children or adults who were once children, Black and brown people, who for whatever reasons, have not been exposed to, have not received a lot of the information that's contained in my book. Because as we all know, they didn't teach these things in school. There are some communities where they don't even teach anything about the transatlantic slave trade. They don't tell individuals that there were 4 slave trades happening at the same time. The transatlantic slave trade, the slave trade of the Arab slave trade, the Portuguese slave trade. So there was at least 4 slave trades happening at the same time, where they were extricating, taking people from Africa and sending them throughout different parts of the world, right? And that happened in that period of 1400 through the late, let's say, 1800s. At the same time, okay? So there's a lot of information in this book that I think is richly informed and richly informative to those for whatever reasons were not exposed to a lot of this information, because it just wasn't something that was put in books. And I want to give back and provide that information, having used my skill set to research and analyze and dissect and pull together the information the way that I did, to share it with our children. Because most importantly, let me say this also, I don't want our children growing up without having a clue about the notion of identity and self-worth. I don't want them growing up and struggling with identity and self-worth and missing out on the wonderful opportunity and education and information that's out there that's going to help shape and mold their identity and self-worth. You understand? I want them to be able to take advantage of whatever is coming their way, so that when they become an adult and they have to navigate this terrain of our imperfect nation, Okay. I want them to be okay and not struggling with identity issues or belonging issues, because they will have a self-worth that no job, I don't care who you are, no job, no title, no amount of money can make you feel good about who you are. And so that when you're going up against the grain of those that want to continue telling you who you are and what your value, what your life is worth, come on, you know where it's coming from, because I've been prepared. I got the tools. And that's what I'm hoping from me to you does for a lot of people.
I love that. I listed you as Esquire and influencer, and that in fact is what you are.
Thank you.
You are definitely an influencer. And so, um, what is the most important takeaway that you want your audience to get from the book?
Well, can I share this, please? I'm going to share my mission all the way through. As an African American mother, wife, advocate for social change, I strongly believe that we as parents, leaders, advocates for change have an obligation to carry forward the stories of our ancestors, speaking to the journeys, struggles, sacrifices, and lived experiences of our ancestors, right? We have an obligation to teach people. We have an obligation to teach our children that we as a people are so much more than what the news media, radio outlets, television stations, books, and other media forms portray us as being. Our children, especially our young adults, need to know that we are a resilient, courageous, compassionate, optimistic, brilliant, and beautifully diverse group of people. You see, it seems everyone has an opinion or a particular viewpoint about who we are and what our lives are worth. And that's because the history or the story of our identity and self-worth has always been told through the lens of his story, HIS story, told by somebody else's perspective, right? But our younger generations need to know with full context and accurate details the inspirational stories surrounding the courage of the men and women who fought for our rights and liberties and sacrificed their lives so that we could be free, free physically, free emotionally, and free mentally. Now, let me just share a little bit more. The younger generations, I hope that they will come to learn, will always remember that our ancestors are part of the largest population of forced migration in the world. Yes, our ancestors were snatched up, kidnapped, brutalized, and subjected to psychological warfare and forcibly removed from their homelands, stripped of their cultural connectedness, and dispersed throughout various parts of the world, never to see their families again. Our ancestors, who from 1619 to 1865 endured 246 years of cultural negation as they lived in a society that at every step of the way engaged in racial segregation, discriminatory practices, psychological warfare, and consistently tried to dehumanize us to the world. Our ancestors, who as of 1865, in the face of inalienable rights bestowed upon them as freed men and women, they remained subject to repressive and oppressive laws, such as the Black Codes and the Jim Crow laws, laws that continued the practice of exploiting, oppressing, segregating, killing, and devaluing Black lives. They need to know that their lineage is connected to ancestors who have participated and contributed in every single war fought for or on behalf of the United States of America. No other group can claim this fact. They need to know that we are from a populace of people from whose backs empires have been built, multi-billion dollar, dare I say, trillion-dollar economies once maintained and sustained, all off the sweat equity of the men, women, and children of the enslaved Africans and their descendants. Bear with me just a few more. Our children need to know about the many prominent historical figures of people like Mary Mcleod Bethune, Marcus Garvey, Fannie Lou Hamer, Barbara Jordan, just to name a few. All right. They need to know people like Mary Mcleod Bethune. She was born in 1875 in the heart of the Jim Crow era. Right. And how was it possible that at the age of 29, she established a school for Black children? I think that was in 1904, a school that evolved into the current Bethune-Cookman University today. All right. How is it that in 1935, at the age of 60, she founded the first national coalition of African American women's organizations, today now known as the National Council of Negro Women. Where did she get the courage, strength, and fortitude, okay, to create a school and an amazing organization, all during the heart of the Jim Crow era? All right. Marcus Garvey, he was born in 1887, died at a young age of 52. He died in 1940. He was a political activist, a publisher, a journalist, an entrepreneur. What led to his famous quote? He said, "A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." I want our kids to know, why did he say that? What was happening? Or even if it's Fannie Lou Hamer, and this one I love. Fannie Lou Hamer, she was born in 1917. She died in early age of 60 years old as well. She was a voting rights activist and a civil rights leader. She said, and this reminds me of my grandmother, my late grandmother, she said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." She also said, "Forget what hurt you, but never forget what it taught you." I want our kids to understand the context in which all of this was happening. These quotes, these famous quotes were being stated, okay? And you see, in learning about the respective stories of their historical figures and these events and others, our youth will undoubtedly come to understand, respect, and appreciate what their ancestors did in the fight against injustice and inequality for our benefit and for our imperfect nation as well. So that's why it's important that and even if you don't get it through my book, you need to get that knowledge, because it gives context to you as an individual as you're molding and shaping who you are and what your self-worth is.
I love that. That was awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. We just want to give a couple of shout outs. Good hello to Nicia, Juanita, Millicent. Please share the broadcast if you're tuning in. Share the broadcast with others, because this is great information. All right, so let's talk about the call to action, because these are great people who did great things, according to your book, and also you and I and other people that we know are still empowering equality and hope and inspiration. And so, what is the call to action?
Well, thank you for that question as well. My call to action would be a challenge to us all to find ways to do better at creating the change we want to see. Okay. We all have something to lose and certainly much to gain. So let's begin to connect with our allies. Let's strategize better. Let's all be inspired by the racially diverse street protests that existed pre-COVID and during COVID. Okay, let's find that form of protest that works best for you, because as we know, silence no longer, or should no longer, be an option. And what I'm hoping that people will, let me share this here as well. There's been a lot of talk about what we need to do to make change, but I am confident, I am hopeful, I am encouraged that golden rule that we've all heard about, whether we were kids, whether we go look it up now, the golden rule that says, "Do unto others as you will have done unto you," that should be the guiding post. When you put your foot on the ground and you're blessed to get up to do what you do, keep that in mind, because that will allow you to treat people and to be inclusive, to treat them fairly, to treat them with respect, because you're doing to them what you will want to have done unto you. So it's not like we're not capable of understanding what it is and what it will take to create the change we need. We just have to have the courage, be intentional, and remove the blinders so that we can get on with this part of the business and make the change that this society needs desperately.
So, in other words, like I always say, everybody can do something.
Absolutely.
I tell people, just because you're not out there marching doesn't mean that there's not a part you can do. There's voter registration. There's education on voter registration. You can be on social media and share stuff that pertains to voter registration, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Social media, although has its downfalls, but there's a lot that you can do to educate if you take the time. You don't need to use the social media platform just to connect with your friends and and see what they're wearing, what they're eating, post your meals and all that. It's so much bigger than that. And even with the algorithms that they put in place that block you from reaching as many people as you have following you. So what happens with that is repetition. You just
Yeah.
keep posting it. Somebody's going to see it. It
Yeah.
is so crucial to have a voice and to use your voice to effect change.
Yeah.
That's my commentary for the day.
Absolutely.
All right. So in closing, actually, what do you want to close with?
I think that call to action was pretty hefty. No.
It was. It was. I love it. I love it.
Let's start with that.
I end up to
Take
have
that and
one
run
more
with
thing
it.
in it. One more
But
thing that you
let's
want
just
to share.
I think I saw a quote on either your site or another one, but it spoke briefly about how you don't have leaders. The good thing about being a leader is that you don't have to wear a title, have a particular title to be an effective leader. You know, there's a lot that we can do. You understand? So again, find out what it is that you can do, that you can contribute. And just go ahead and just start it. Because I assure you, as my grandmother always said, if there's a will, there's a way. And if you have that will, you will find the way to keep moving forward. All right. So, but
Amen.
thank you.
Amen. Amen. And we just want to let you know that you can reach us. You see it scrolling across the bottom, blackwomenempowered.org. If you have a story that you want to share on our network that you believe is worth sharing, you can email us at info@blackwomenempowered. We do have segments that we will do. They are paid segments, so don't think that we're just going to take you on and let you get on the network for free. But it is reasonable. So if you have a business or a product or story that you want to share, you can email us at info@blackwomenempowered.org, and we will review it and make a decision. But there is a way to get, if you want to share one of your stories, share your book, share your business, email us. Um, Deidre, you are so amazing, and tell them how to get your book. Let's put it out there.
Okay. Well, one can pre-order the book on Amazon.com, um, Barnes and Nobles. They can go to my website is still under construction. It's almost done. But you can go to my publisher's website, which is mascotbooks.com. That's MASCOTBOOKS.com. But if you go on Amazon, you can actually order the book. And I understand that they will be. I received my bulk of the books already, and it's everything that I hoped for. And I'm so grateful to be able to share it with you all. Okay, and so yeah.
Do you have a social media that you want them to follow you on?
Yes, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Deidre Moore Janvier. That's DEIDRA Moore MOORE hyphen Janvier JANVIER. You can follow me on Instagram at DMoore2253. You can follow me on Twitter at Deidre Moore 2253. You can follow me on Facebook under the business Facebook section of DMJ voice, identity and purpose. And again, my website is under construction, but it will be www.deidramore.com. Again, www.DEIDRAMOORE.com. Thank you so much, Dr. King. I
Well, wait a
so
minute. You already got an order. Johnny, let's see. Johnny, Joanne, I can't see that. It looks like Johnny says, thank you. Just pre-ordered.
great. Thank you so much.
So look at that.
Thank
Uh,
you so
that's
much.
a blessing. And thank you. I think it's Johnny. It's so small. I'm struggling. I'm
Okay.
sorry if
It's
I
all
messed
good.
up your name. Thank you, Rondell Pruitt. Thank you so much, everyone. That Millicent, thank you so much. Please continue to share the broadcast. I appreciate you. I love you. As you always, I say that I love you. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. And, God is great. Continue to pray for one another. pray for our country, pray for our new Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's going to need all of our prayers, all of our love, all of our support. And so
Absolutely.
let's make sure that we do that. And Nisia, thank you so much. Share, share, share. Until the next time, I believe we have a broadcast coming up next week with Queen Mother Blakely, amazing woman. I'm not gonna. You do you know her, Deidre? Have you heard of her? She's
I've
from
heard of her, but I don't know too much, but I'll learn more next week.
Yeah, so she'll be coming up next week, and she's 90 years old. She's
God
still
bless.
fighting the fight, an activist. Her story is nothing short of amazing. So she will be on next week, and we do have some exciting people coming. Again, if you want to get on our network or have the opportunity to be considered to get on our network, info@blackwomenempowered.org. You can also get to it from our website. And we will take a look and make a determination. God bless you. I love you and have a blessed
Thank you.